In today's video, I'll be showing you my almost complete Sword and Shield Japanese alt art collection. As you can see, I have an insane stack of alt arts in my hand, including some glittery ones that I just can't wait to show you guys, so let's get straight into it. Hey guys, it's Pokemonster TCG here, and recently I just completed a huge personal collection goal, which was to complete every single Sword and Shield alt art. Now there are 3 notable exceptions from this list, being the Vaporeon, Jolteon and Flareon VMAX Summer Lottery promos. Hopefully I'll get them soon, but it's not within my immediate reach. Also, I've excluded SARs from V-Star Universe and CSRs from VMAX Climax because they don't fit the criteria of what a standard Sword and Shield alt art is. Finally, I do have this Arceus, but because it's not textured, it also doesn't meet the same criteria. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. So I'm going to be taking you through almost chronological order in which the sets were released. We are going to start off with this beautiful Urshifu single strike, very angry looking, drawn by Kawaii, one of my favorite artists. I think the illustration quality on the alt arts was universally extremely high quality, which is why they were so well received. Next we have the sleepy Tyranitar with the Pignite in the background, looking a bit jealous, drawn by Hyogonosuke, so very nice there. And to finish off, we have the VMAX alt art of the set, being the single strike Urshifu VMAX alt art. So I'm not a huge fan of this one because it looks very similar to the standard VMAX, but still nice to have it complete in the collection. Next, we are going to move on to Rapid Strike, so that's S5R, starting off with a super underrated Intelleon. I really like the waterfall texture right there, as well as the other Pokemon involved. That's what was such a cool thing about alt arts. We have the Phalanx there just hanging around the Intelleon, who is no doubt trying to meditate whilst it's training. And next we have a Rapid Strike Urshifu drawn by Ryota Murayama, also the artist for the Charizard V alt arts, so very nice there. And to top it off, we have probably the best card out of the 6, which is the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. So you can really see the glitter a little bit there. Really like that. Showing a bit of the close-ups. Super cool to have these in my collection. They're just such nice cards. So next we have a very underrated set, being S5a Matchless Fighter, and we start off with this beautiful Kumiya Galarian Slowking that looks like it's having the trip of a lifetime. Next we have the Galarian Zapdos, a bit of a Roadrunner style concept. Really like it, especially in light of the fact that you get the whole bird trio in this set. So next is the Galarian Articuno, which has this bubble texture, and apologies for a little bit of glare, but I didn't really want to take these cards out of their sleeves to risk damage. But to top off the trio, we have by far the most iconic one, this Galarian Moltres, which just looks awesome, and I have it in PSA 10, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, the concept about this and the symmetry with the moon in the background is awesome. So Matchless Fighter, very underrated set, and we finish off with a 5th alt art, being the Blaziken VMAX. Now this is not my favorite one, but still think it looks pretty cool. After Matchless Fighter, we had S6H Silverlands, but one thing that's cool about these is they released booster box promos to come with purchases of the booster box. So if you bought a booster box of Silverlands off the Pokemon Center at the time, you would get this Sandaconda promo. And then we're moving on to the actual alt arts within the set. We start off with an Ice Rider Calyrex. I absolutely love this one. Just the setting is so appropriate for it, considering the DLC in the Crown Tundra. Ice Rider Calyrex walking on an iced lake, I want to say. But also all the different Pokemon in the background, if you can see. It's just so cute to see all of them interacting together. It really brings the Pokemon world to life, in my opinion. Then we have this Galarian Rapidash, sort of taking pollen or giving pollen to a flower at night. This one I have to say is not my favorite, but I do think the circular texture here, if you can see, is very nice. And to finish off the V alt arts, we have this awesome Tornadus V, probably my favorite one, just because of the concept. Again, it's wreaking havoc. And this is the Crown Tundra tree. I don't really know what it's called, apologies for that, but I definitely recognize it from the DLC. So a very cool V alt art right there. And to finish off, we have the big boy drawn by Oswaldo Cato, which is a PSA 10 Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. And hopefully you guys can enjoy the video quality here because I'm trying to record in 4K, but really underrated one. So next we have S6a Jet Black Poltergeist. We have the booster box promo for it, no doubt the more popular one out of Celebi and Sandaconda. I just think this artwork is so good, drawn by T0, who did a few alt arts in Sword and Shield, but also did the Raging Bolt SAR, as well as the other two Paradox legendary dogs. So we have that promo, and look at that awesome rainbow gloss and texture. Really like that Celebi, so I wanted to spend a bit more time on it. Then we move on to the V alt art. So we start off with a Blissey V looking very cute, drawn by Saya Tsuruta. Probably a little bit underwhelming to the other ones, because next we have a Shadow Rider Calyrex looking very ominous walking through the forest. And again, loved the interaction with the other Pokemon, watching on a little bit fearfully. Psychic type Ghost Rider or Shadow Rider Calyrex V alt art. And then no doubt my favorite alt art from this set, or my favorite V alt art I should say. You can see the sunlight sort of coming in there. We have the Zera Aura. I'm sort of like admiring this at the same time, which is why I'm not so succinct, but drawn by Atsushi Furusawa, again a name that you'll hear probably a few times more very soon. Zera Aura V alt art. Awesome card from Jet Black Poltergeist, which also contributes to why the set itself is so strong. But without a doubt, the crowning jewel, and no pun intended, is this Shadow Rider VMAX Calyrex. Look at that glitter and the bubble texture. Again, it just looks so nice, drawn by Mitsuhiro Arita, HR rarity. Now this has gone down in price a lot, so English Sword and Shield alt arts are absolutely exploding right now, and these are extremely cheap compared to what they were about a few months ago. When you think about the booster box price, this one being like 80 to 90 pounds, this card in a PSA 10 you can probably get for 350 pounds. So like, I want to say 450 to 500 US dollars. Okay, so make sure you stick around for this part because Eevee Heroes is coming. First, we start off with this Espeon VMAX alt art PSA 10 from the Eevee set. So it's a promo from the gym box, which came with 2 Eevee Heroes booster boxes plus this promo, and a deck box with sleeves, but the glitter on that is just absolutely beautiful. Just look at that, and the sunlight texture coming down from there. So a very beautiful alt art, which was very expensive for a while, but it's pretty affordable now to pick up if you did want to pick it up. Next, we're going to move on to the Eevee Heroes alt arts, so bear with me while I go through this. Might take a bit of time. We start off with the Leafeon V alt art. Love that gloss and texture. Then we have the Flareon V alt art. Doing good work for its family, trying to heat the home. Very nice card. I think the main thing with Eevee Heroes was the collectability of the alt arts, because you have all 8 V alt arts and almost all of the VMAX alts. There we have one of the most popular V alt arts for sure, which is Vaporeon kind of playing with the reflection of the moon. Moving on, we have the first alt art that I ever pulled from Eevee Heroes from one booster box, being the Glaceon V alt art, looking very cute on a park bench in its natural climate, being winter time. So there we have the Glaceon V alt art. Next, we have the Flash artwork of Jolteon V. More of a cityscape artwork, very cool illustration of its speed and agility. So a very fitting artwork showing the Pokemon in action. And on that topic, we then have the Espeon again doing something very believable. Probably a genius Pokemon reading all the books, drawn by Cao Cao. Very, very nice alt art. So these are not cards that I'm ever going to be selling. Purely for personal collection, I have these. I do think they look really, really nice raw as well. Next we have the Sylveon V with that sunlight texture again, but being a bit cheeky in a bakery. Really, really like that. And finally we have the big boy, the most popular evolution, but I wouldn't say this is the best V alt art, but I really like the moon. Obviously with Umbreon you are gonna have to be doing a moon artwork, but something that I really find cool is the Umbreon sort of ruling over the Grimmsnarl, the Pinsir, and the like. Good choice of Pokemon, I think, to have in the background, sort of ominous. So hopefully you can see I've got all 8 of the Evolution V cards there. Then we're going to move on to the VMAX alt arts, of course. We start off with the Leafeon VMAX alt art. Really, really like this one, but probably my least favorite of the 4 that you can find in Eevee Heroes. Just trying to show off that glitter texture a little bit and bring it closer to the camera. Obviously, handling these kinds of precious goods, I have to be very, very careful as well. So we have the Leafeon VMAX right there. Bit of an underrated one. Next is the Glaceon VMAX. I actually think this light shows it better, but I like the inclusion of the Pikachu down there, as well as the ice texture. I'm going to try finding an angle to show it, but if you look at Glaceon's foot, you can see there's like ice shards or polygons forming, which I think is a really, really nice touch. And obviously the glitter just tops everything off. And just notice the Marill there as well. Very, very, very nice. It's hard to think about how they're going to top these in Scarlet and Violet, to be honest, but they don't have to, really. And there are some very nice cards in the SV era as well. Next we have the Sylveon VMAX. This is one of my favorites, especially because you can see the Marshadow sort of gliding down right there, as well as all the other Pokemon. I can't name all of them in one go, but really, really like the texture. Oh, I just noticed the Vaporeon there as well, first time noticing it. And that's what I love about these alt arts. It's the amount of detail that you'll see on them. Very, very nice alt art. And then we have the most iconic alt art from the Sword and Shield era. Possibly one of the most iconic modern cards, I want to say, maybe in the last 5 years or so. If we're thinking about Sun and Moon, then you've obviously got the Rainbow Charizard from Burning Shadows, Shiny Charizard from Hidden Fates, but honestly this one I believe has had more eyes on it, just because of where Pokemon was when this came out. I would say that was the peak, or at least one of the peaks in recent times. So there we have it, the Umbreon VMAX in all its glory. I might grade this, I don't know. I pulled this myself, so it does have sentimental value. Very, very nice. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this showcase. If you are, please do make sure to drop a like. Just gonna end this frame here with all the Eevee Heroes alt arts. So next we are moving on to the S7 series. We are gonna start off with Skyscraping Perfect. So I have this amazing Noivern drawn by Mitsuhiro Arita, giving gargoyle vibes. Very, very nice. Very, very nice Arita artwork, and the whole vibe is just perfect for this Pokemon. Then we have the Duraludon, enjoying a bit of food with Raihan. I also think this is really cool in terms of illustrating the bond between trainer and Pokemon. Next we have a Golurk V in PSA 10, so I graded this myself at the time. Maybe one day I'll have all of the alt arts in PSA 10, but I do really like this artwork drawn by Oswaldo Cato. And in looking at these alt arts, you can kind of see that S7D is kind of underrated, because we then have the Duraludon VMAX. So Duraludon is shaped or inspired by the shard. Not the best Pokemon, but I did pull this myself out of one box of Skyscraping Perfect, so I'm not going to complain about that, especially because I'm such a simp for VMAX alt arts and their glitter. So we're gonna be on S7R Blue Sky Stream, very rare set for the Sword and Shield era. Starting off with the Medicham, the one thing that confuses me about this alt art is I don't know where exactly it's going, but there we have the Medicham, and then I'm gonna focus a bit on this Sleepy Dragonite drawn by Atsushi Furusawa again. Very cool. Imagine pulling this from a booster box at the time, it would have been insane. So we have the Dragonite V, one of my favorite alt arts again. Popular Pokemon, very cool and cute pose. Next, we move on to a PSA 10 graded Rayquaza V alt art. Super cool with Zinnia there in the back, and again the sunlight texture. This one was such a hype card when it came out. Trying to focus in a bit on it. Don't mind the PSA case scratches. But yeah, just a very cool card in PSA 10. And then the second big boy of the Sword and Shield era is going to be this Rayquaza VMAX. So I'm trying to show off the glitter a little bit. Looks absolutely awesome. Picked this up recently actually, towards the end of 2023. But it was a big task. Especially considering it's a modern card, you always feel a bit uncomfortable paying 4 figures for it. But I needed it in my collection, so here it is, the Rayquaza VMAX, and that glitter just gets me every time. So the second most iconic card from the Sword and Shield era, I would say, and this set in general is banging. Next, we are moving on to the high-class constructed decks, Intelleon and Gengar variants. So if you bought the standard deck, you'd have like a 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 chance of pulling a VMAX alt art from the deck. So it's kind of like a not guaranteed pull from the decks. Got this from my friend T for about £30, graded it for £15. So overall a pretty good buy. Probably the best kind of artwork you could do with Intelleon is it being kind of like a sniper. So very cool. But the one everyone wants to see is obviously the S6a Gengar VMAX. Super cool illustration of it. So I'm not the biggest fan of the S6a art style for Gengar, but I do think it works really well with the Pokemon, especially with the VMAX variant. Just looking at it, sucking up everything. And if you look into the center of Gengar's mouth, you can see that there's a darkness type symbol there, if I'm not mistaken, which is just a very cool Easter egg there if you compare the two. So next we're moving on to S8 Fusion Arts. We start off with the Genesect, that's breakdancing, with Smeargle also having a boogie in the background. Really underrated one, which I pulled myself. Really like how the texture is showing here as well. Next we have the Greedent, not much to say about this one, not a very popular one, but still a very nice artwork, Greedent being carried by the Squovit there. Then we move on to some of the bigger boys. Not my favorite alt art, but Mew V alt art, there you have it, with Smeargle Toxtricity. I believe all these Pokemon are within the main set, which is probably an Easter egg reference. But yeah, drawn by Naoki Saito, who I believe is probably more well known for their trainer illustrations. But still a pretty nice card that I bought during the 2022 or last year's hype, I think. Then we have the Mew VMAX, one of my favorites. It's sort of in Winden, which is the Pokemon equivalent of London, but you can see the telephone booth there, the bus, the black cab. Very cool sort of meta card for people who live in the UK. Mew VMAX HR from Fusion Arts, and this is the last VMAX alt art. Moving on, we have S9 Starbirth, which ushered in the era of V-Star cards, and sadly meant that there were no more VMAX alt arts after. But we start off with a very cute Honchkrow V alt art. I do think it's drawn very well. And I think the Murkrow that kind of have their eyes closed are very cute as well. Then we have an extremely underrated one, Lumineon V alt art. And by underrated, I'm not saying this should be stonks or anything, but I just think the artwork merits more recognition. You see all that wave texture just looks so cool. The whole vibe, coloring and everything just looks really cool. So that's Lumineon V. And then we have, again, one of my favorite alt arts from the era, drawn by Kawaii RCSV looking extremely godly there in the sort of not outer space, but above the clouds. I just think that texture as well is super cool. So this is no doubt one of my favorite alt arts. But arguably even higher chase than that in Starbirth was this Charizard V alt arts, which is a continuation of the Venusaur and Charizard fight that we first saw starting in the game book artwork promo in the XY era. So I have a PSA 10 copy of this Charizard V alt art. Very nice, even today. Moving on, we are going to do S10p Space Juggler, so more Gen 4 focused. Palkia is what the P stands for in S10. We start off with the Beedrill, again, not a money card, but a nice artwork. And I'm really liking how my camera is picking up this kind of like rainbow gloss. Very nice. Then we have the Hisuian Sneasler, again, a very nice artwork. Not my favorite though, I have to say. In my opinion, S10D and S10P, apart from the chase alt arts, the side ones are a little bit underwhelming when you compare it to the rest. But we then have the chase alt art, which is this MC Escher Palkia V alt art in PSA 10, drawn again by Oswaldo Cato, who did the Golurk V alt art as well, and the Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. So very nice card to just look at in your spare time. After that, we have S10D. So Dialga S10D Time Gazer, which is also the Strip Seal base set. So they first tested out doing that Strip Seal on the booster boxes with S10D. Super cute Hisuian Lilligant artwork with so much going on under the water and above the water. I actually think the side Pokemon really helped to bring this artwork together. I love that Bascu Legion, by the way. I think it's illustrated so well. But we have that Hisuian Lilligant V alt art. Then one of the most popular ones from Astral Radiance in English, the Machamp V alt art. I believe this costs more than the Dialga as well, but it is a very nice card, Machamp V alt art. And then we move on to the big boy, drawn by Mitsuhiro Arita. There we have it. We have the Dialga V PSA 10 alt art. Very cool artwork by Mr. Arita there. So there we have it. That's S10D and S10P. Moving on, we have a very small selection from S10b Pokémon Go. We start off with a Conkeldurr there. Not a very good Pokemon, not a very good art style, but if there's one redeeming factor, it's the texture in the background there. And I do like the logo actually. Then we have the Mewtwo V. I'm not going to take this out of the sleeve, but this one is actually really nice to me. I think it's a bit underrated. Very nice Mewtwo V artwork. So we're coming towards the end of this video. Only 2 more sets of cards to show you guys. If you've enjoyed it so far, please do make sure to leave a like, subscribe and comment. But we are going to move on immediately to S11 Lost Abyss. Very nice Rotom V artwork there. And the quality and consistency of artwork across the era is probably why Sword and Shield is still so revered today. Then we have a Galarian Berserker. Again, I think it's a really cute one. Very cool. And then possibly a candidate for one of the strongest V alt art artworks is this Jurassic Park Aerodactyl. If we just look a bit more in the close-up, you can see all the different Pokemon in the background, including the Tropius and Bastiodon, I believe. But it's also the texture on the mountains that really makes this a standout candidate. So I do really like this one. Aerodactyl V. And God, I do love that rainbow gloss. Finally, we have the big boy, the Giratina V alt art. I've actually lost money on this because I paid for it during the alt art hype. But as it's staying in my personal collection forever, it doesn't really matter. Shinji Konda, I could have been a bit smarter with my decisions, but can't really win all of them. I think the texture on this is actually underrated, so people just look at the background and how trippy it is, but the actual texture that's associated with it is really, really good. And this V alt art for most people is probably the top V alt art. It is certainly showing in English last solds for V alt arts. This Giratina has sold for over $1,000 US, £900 in the UK. I can't think of another V alt art that would have come close to that. So we have the Giratina V, which was sort of the breakout alt art for Shinji Konda, a new artist on the scene. So our last set is S12 Paradigm Trigger, starting off with a Skuntank, probably the worst one of Paradigm Trigger. But again, you can't really go wrong with these alt arts. And if you're looking for a cheap one to pick up, this would be one of them. Next, we move on to Regidrago V alt art. Cool Easter egg is that you can see the Lugia in the background. One thing that I think they did really well with S12 Paradigm Trigger is the whole set theme being within mysterious ruins, and then you see those ruins sort of in the background. They even did a mystery box, Pokemon's first ever mystery box with S12 Paradigm Trigger. So a very, very nice alt art that I graded myself. Then we have the Unknown V. I actually pulled this myself, so good memories, which spells out victory. Very cool Easter egg by Toshinao Aoki. Again, that rainbow gloss is just really, really nice. Not as good as the VMAX alt art glitters. To top it off, we have none other than the Lugia V alt art. Again, one of my favorites because it was drawn by Kawaii again. Shining Gyarados 2.0. A lost sailor at sea, and just imagine coming up against Lugia when you're lost at sea. It's just absolutely terrifying. Yeah, this has got to be one of my favorites. I did buy it raw, I believe, and graded it in a PSA 10, but I obviously haven't made profit because the price I paid for it raw is probably what the PSA 10 is worth now. So here are all my alt arts ungraded again for you guys to look at, but I'm gonna go through them one by one very quickly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm almost there with 1K, so it would be great if I could hit it in the next 2 months or so. But yeah, I do enjoy just showcasing my collection like this. It's not been easy. I'm not saying it's the hardest goal to accomplish. Also, there's a big asterisk over my collection, which is the 3 summer lottery promos. But for now, I'm very happy to have completed this personal goal. So see you guys next time.